Friends, welcome to my workplace at Ranaghat, West Bengal, India. This is a large incision cataract surgery. I call it double SICS because two SICS wounds are placed adjacent to each other, and then only one suture is placed at the joining point of the two SICS wounds. Let us observe this surgery. By this time the peritomy has been done for about 4 clock hours, from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. In small incision cataract surgery we do peritomy for 2 clock hours, and this is for 4 clock hours because it is going to be a very large incision, about 11 millimeter, and the two SICS wounds will be joining at the middle. This is one SICS wound, and this is another SICS wound, and this two is joining at this point. So it has become like a V incision, wide V incision. And now, just like small incision cataract surgery, a sclerocorneal tunnel is going to be done, and I have started making the tunnel. Go to a depth of almost half thickness of the sclera, and here it is. Started the tunnel from the right corner, come to the center, and here I go and raise the apex, that is the joining point of the two SICS wounds. This is a modification of ECCE. We used to do ECCE, and we used to place about 7 to 8 sutures if the wound was so large. But in this case, because it is a tunnel and there is a corneal valve, very nice corneal valve, only one suture will be placed just to reduce the astigmatism. Otherwise this suture is self-sealing. This wound is self-sealing. This is a side port at around 8:30 or 8:45 o'clock, and an air bubble is injected. You can see milky fluid and a hard brown nucleus. So this is a very tough case for Phaco. There is no epinuclear cushion, the large free floating nucleus. It is possible to do Phaco, but a very safe technique is this: double SICS or LICS. Injected dye over the anterior capsule, washed it out, and now the antechamber is filled up with 2% SPMC. It is, and now I am entering into the anterior chamber with a keratom and opening the right corner of the tunnel. And this opening I will use for capsulorhexis. I make a puncture, milky fluid comes out. I did a small rhexis first in this case. If milky fluid comes out, we need not do small rhexis. We can aspirate through that incision. We can aspirate the milky fluid, but I just did it. We can apply some force or some pressure over the rhexis margin if it is a mini rhexis. If it is not a mini rhexis, just an opening, just an incision, we have to do it gently. And now again the anterior chamber is filled up with 2% hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose. And now I take Vanna scissor and make a cut, and now I take the utreta forceps and do a large rhexis, about 6 mm in size, because I have to prolapse this huge nucleus. The rhexis tends to go to periphery and I bring it back. So it was a play of balance, and here it is, completion of the large rhexis. And now inject visco and open the tunnel completely from one end to the other end. Always remember that we must cut when we go forward to keep the corneal valve very nice. Yes, this is a self-sealing wound, and only one suture will be applied just to reduce the astigmatism. Again visco, and now I take 2 hooks to prolapse the nucleus. Here it is, and the wound is about 11 mm, so it will come easily by visco expression. As we inject visco behind the lens, it will come out, and it comes out very nicely. And now cortical cleanup is to be done. There is very little cortex. Most of the cortex had turned into a milky fluid, so we just have to aspirate the milky fluid. And now the fibers are removed. Though I am going through the main incision, the antechamber is formed. It is not shallow because I am lifting the main anterior wall of the main wound. Now I go through the side port and remove the subincisional cortex. See how safe is this surgery for the corneal endothelium and for the posterior capsule. And the large wound is going to heal very nicely within a month or so. This is a Sensa multi-piece intraocular lens going unfolded. Because the wound is so large, we need not fold this lens. The lens has gone into the capsular bag, and now I'm going to put a suture at the apex of this V-shaped incision. Apex means the joining point of the two SICS wounds. Now before tying, I want the intraocular pressure little more. This is conjunctival peritomy is to be opposed by this suture, and this will be a releasable suture. Before tying the sclerocorneal suture, I'm going to inject an air bubble in the anterior chamber, because the intraocular pressure should be almost normal when I tie this suture. Instead of injecting visco, I injected an air bubble. And now I'm going to make a knot. And this is the knot. And this is going to reduce the astigmatism to a great extent. So this double SICS or large incision cataract surgery is very much safe surgery for hard brown nucleus like this. Only thing is, it takes a little more time than SICS, because we have to put this suture. But again, the suture will help in reducing the induced astigmatism. And now thorough removal of visco is done. Visco is removed from the anterior chamber, from the capsular bag. The anterior chamber and capsular bag is irrigated nicely so that most of the visco comes out. And now in this case, I took the irrigating probe of bimanual irrigation aspiration and did some more irrigation of the anterior chamber. Since this is a high flow irrigation, it could remove all the visco from the anterior chamber as well as from the capsular bag. And now the conjunctival peritomy, the conjunctiva is opposed to the limbus by subconjunctival injection of gentamicin and dexamethasone. And the releasable suture is placed at the right end of the peritomy. And see how nicely the conjunctiva gets opposed to the limbus. And this is trimming of the tenno nylon near the knot. This is a releasable knot. I'll just pull the longer thread and it will come out. And here I conclude the case. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope this video will help you in managing very hard cataracts where your intuition says that phaco is dangerous. Phaco may cause damage to the corneal endothelium. There can be postcapsular rain, there can be nucleus drop, all these thoughts. When it comes to your mind, you can go for this option. A large incision cataract surgery, actually it is modified ECCE. Two SICS wounds are constructed adjacent to each other, so it may be called DSICS, that is double SICS.